Welcome to Superintendent Spotlight. I'm Ken Weir, and I'm speaking to you today from the North Penn High School television studio. North Penn Superintendent Thomas Persing and Director of Facilities Arthur Wood are our guests today. We're meeting here today to talk with you about the plans for the second North Penn High School. At our last school board meeting, the school board voted to approve that we proceed with planning for a second high school to be built in Montgomery Township. This would be a high school planned initially for 1,200 students and a core facilities for 1,600 students. I'd like to begin by asking Dr. Persing to talk with us for a moment about the kinds of things that he began to move on as soon as the vote was taken and as soon as the vote was sure that we were to proceed with our planning. Dr. Persing, what were the first things you did in the days after that vote?
The first thing we did, Ken, was to approach our architect, Robert Breslin from Allentown. And Mr. Wood and I proceeded and spent the entire morning with him trying to make sure that we were re-entering into a building phase with our new high school. He outlined for us the things that needed to be done by the school district, and we outlined for him those things that we would do with him, as well as with the Department of Labor and Industry and the Department of Education. He then showed us the plans and the alternatives that he had to bring to fruition the new high school. We then, in the afternoon, went to see the borough manager of Montgomery Township, where the new high school will be located. We had what I term a very fruitful, a very cordial meeting with Dan O'Pear. We expect full cooperation from the borough, from the township, from Montgomery Township. And what is more is I've written a letter to the township supervisors and request a meeting as quickly as possible so that we come and present to them what sketches we have from the architect, and as well as anything else that they think is necessary to ensure full cooperation.
Thank you. I think we should ask Arthur Wood to talk with us a little bit about the site plan and the location of the footprint of the proposed school on the site. This is a site of some 136 acres along Keenest Road in Montgomery Township. And Mr. Wood, our friend Arthur, tell us a little bit about this site and this school location.
Thank you, Ken. I think the important thing to talk about first is that the drawings that we're going to share today with the community and anyone interested in watching our program at a later date reflect drawings that are referred to as a schematic drawing. In any project of this nature, when you're working with the Pennsylvania Department of Education and you're looking for reimbursement, we start with a schematic drawing. And I think the need to emphasize that nothing is cast in concrete with a schematic drawing. It's a beginning point. This building will be a building that belongs primarily to the school board and the community, and as a result, the board will make many final decisions. So as we begin to look at our plot plan, we will see that this is a concept whereby the building has been placed at probably the most advantageous placement that could take place on our 136 acres. I would just like to show you and reference Keenest Road, and Keenest Road, of course, intersects with County Line in this direction and Horsham Road in this direction. Our property has the Little Neshaminy running through it, the creek that you see here, and you can see initially we're showing the building, the bus loop, and the entrance to the building, and the major part of our parking is on one side of the creek, and of course on the other side of the creek we have a parking lot as well as all of our playing fields. It has been our understanding from the inception that although this will be an all-weather track and this will be a playing field for both soccer and football, it will not be a stadium. Our games, any games that are played within a stadium will be played at 1340 Valley Forge Road at the existing North Penn High School. The walkways that you see crossing the creek are strictly pedestrian bridges. They are not bridges or cartways for vehicles. One of the reasons that you place, or the building has been placed where it has been placed on the property, is there's a natural fall of the land, with this being a higher area than the area down near the creek, if you will, or at this part of the property. The advantage, and in our community, many of us know that we have a rock condition that exists in our school district, and we want to move as little earth as we can as we begin to build this building. So we're taking advantage of the fall of the land, and in the back of the building, we will have our cafeteria, our natatorium or swimming pool area, and our gymnasium that will be accessible from what we refer to as a ground level. At the first floor level, in the front of the building, this is our bus loop. We would park buses on the diagonal so that we can accommodate approximately 35 buses. The library IMC is in the very front of the building. The auditorium is over in this side of the building, and the main entrance and the main office area is over here, but there is a main entrance that comes in and you enter the classroom wing here. I think it's important when we talk about a 1,200 student building with a 1,600 student capacity to point out that the outline that you see at the end of the classroom wing would allow for the expansion in the future that would take us from a 1,200 student building to a 1,600 student building. And that would require approximately 16 classrooms that would accommodate 400 additional youngsters.
May I interrupt you, Arthur?
Sure.
We often refer to core facilities. For our listeners, let's explain what we mean by core facilities and what all that entails.
That's an excellent point. And with that, I'd like to put the first graphic up that shows the ground floor as we begin to talk about core facilities. Core facilities are those facilities such as corridors. We see corridors here, a gymnasium with seating, the pool facility, the cafeteria, and over here you can see the outline of the auditorium. To give you a perfect example, the core facility that involves the use of the auditorium is primarily designed to seat 800 youngsters. The theory being that if we would expand the building to 1,600 students, we would be able to have school assemblies in multiples of 2, which would accommodate the entire student body. Corridor sizes. This is very important. Those of us that understand our existing high school know that the reason we can accommodate 2,700 youngsters in our existing building is that many boards before this board had enough foresight to build corridors that are wide enough and sized for good movement of students throughout the building. That is part of the core design. You would build a building, for an example, that would have adequate lockers for 1,600 students. Your cafeteria, which will seat 550 students, would allow to feed a 3-lunch program that would comfortably feed 1,600 students. So that gives you some idea about core facilities.
Does the reference core facilities also pertain to boiler capacity and heating and such things?
Exactly. Your mechanical systems would be sized so that when you expand the building, there's no need to upgrade the electrical service. There's no need to change boilers or chillers, for that matter, for heating and cooling. And that's an important aspect. You can see as you look at the pool area or the natatorium that we show a diving well here, we show a racing tank in this location. This part of the building, and I was able to share that with you on the plot plan or the site plan, allows for access coming from that small parking lot on the other side of the creek into the back of the building. When we move to the first floor plan, you will see the same main entrance here and a lobby area that will look down into our gymnasium area. Over here is our auditorium. You can see a traffic pattern, corridors being developed or designed so that they're pretty much in a square mode and you have good movement throughout the building. Administration area is here, technical education. Back in this area, of course, our choral room, our band room, and our drama area behind the stage, which is a natural setting, good access from the outside if you have outside groups coming in. Our library is separated from our classroom wing so that we can open this on weekends and in the evening and possibly in the summer for use without having access to the entire building. It will have its own exterior entrances. So we see a rather good traffic flow. We have the administrative area here, but yet on each of the 3 floor plans you will see a grade level area located here. There's a normal mixture of science labs with standard classrooms.
Excuse me. Let's talk for a minute about the number of classrooms or the number of instructional areas. We've heard criticism on 1 or 2 occasions about the number of classrooms that were designed for this building. Can you comment on that and especially on the total number of classroom or instructional areas?
When we do a schematic plan, and even when we get into the design phase, which we're entering now with the architect, there is a formula, there are guidelines set forth by the Department of Ed, and it's called a room schedule. And it determines what your capacity or your rated capacity and, quite frankly, your reimbursable capacity will be with the Department of Ed. We have 28 850 square foot, what I would refer to as standard classrooms. But in reality, we have 64 instructional areas in the building because a science lab becomes an instructional area, art room is an instructional area, a computer lab, a business ed lab, technology lab, all of those areas are instructional areas. So when you look at the overall plan or the overall room schedule, you see that there are, in fact, 64 scheduled areas in the building or instructional areas in the building.
Art, if I may at this time, and Ken, we have also been criticized to some degree that this particular high school may not be of equal academic quality of that what we're used to in North Penn. I want to point out that we will have a high school that is virtually equal, with the exception of a planetarium. All that we can offer in one school will be able to physically offer in the other. It should be noted that it's the Department of Education who would not approve such a plan unless it were to have those capacities. And what is more, it's the Board of School Directors who determines the curriculum for both high schools.
As we leave the first floor plan and move to the second floor, I'd just like to point out, as you look at the roof line on the building, that we are going to be using a standing seam A roof. Many times we're criticized in public education for using a flat roof on our buildings. We're going to an A roof, and we're doing that for a number of reasons. We know the longevity is greater than a flat roof. We know also that water drains much better. We don't have standing water. But the other advantage, and you'll see that, and I can show you that, in this area, which is the classroom wing, above the 3rd floor with the A roof, we will have a storage loft. And one of the things we always suffer through in the school business is where you store everything, whether you're storing band uniforms, whether you're storing drama sets, whether you're storing records, student records, archives, and the like. We will have, by extending our stairway and our elevator to the additional floor above the 3rd floor classroom wing, we will wind up with a storage area. The 2nd floor classroom wing, as you see, is very similar to the 1st floor. You have your administrative or your grade level office here. You do show on the 2nd floor the balcony to the auditorium, which of course would seat 800 youngsters. Once again, the expansion on this building would come off of the end of this corridor. So really we'd be building 3 walls to do the classroom expansion. The 3rd floor layout, once again, you can see that we have pretty much of a clone of the 1st and 2nd floor as it relates to the instructional area or the classroom area of the building. Our gymnasium, I failed to mention. I would just like to say that The gymnasium is a 15,000 square foot gymnasium. We do have an auxiliary gym, and that gym will seat 1,200 students. So we're comfortable with our capacities at this date. And just to reiterate the fact that this is a schematic drawing, we now go to a design drawing, and that is when we seek the input of our Board of School Directors and all of our staff members so that they can be totally involved in the design of the building. We would want our science people, with all their specialized training, to be involved in the design of the science labs, as we would want technology people and our computer people and anyone, our librarian and our media specialists, designing the library, and of course having our aquatic people involved in the pool design. One of the things, and we take great pride, and I guess it dates us a bit, but Mr. Weir and I were both very instrumental in the design of the existing high school, and that was a teacher designed building, a department chairperson designed building, whereby people had a lot of input as to what we have in this facility.
The role of these staff members in helping to design the building, that wouldn't necessarily change the footprint at all. The footprint wouldn't be involved.
No,
We're talking about equipping the building and the number of workstations and the configuration at each workstation.
And built-in cabinetry.
That's right.
As you look at homemaking, as you look at art, and you look at science, there's so much of those areas that are actually specified and built into the building, and we would want labs that would service our teachers and our students well, and just the general flow and location and the way the building functions, the input of the staff that will be there, even if they're not going to be there, but our existing staff members in our existing North Penn High School becomes a very important part.
It's really a kind of checks and balances so that the teachers and the department chairs who will use the facility make sure that they have what they need and advise the architect and district administrators, I think, to make sure that this will work, that this is functional.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Art, you mentioned that we have a 1,200 capacity gymnasium, and then also you mentioned that there's an auxiliary gym. Would you please comment on the
I'll go back
auxiliary
and just
gym?
show you that drawing, if I may, and probably give you a better idea. The auxiliary gym is here, and with the requirement to offer remedial gymnasium or gym classes, if you will, we put an auxiliary gym in, and it also becomes an area that can be used for wrestling practice and any other type of practice that can take place in a smaller gym. The large gym will be a divided gym with 7,500 square feet on each side of the divider that will open up into the main floor of the gym and seat 600 people on each side. Our locker rooms back here, of course, allow flow to our outside activities, and that's very, very important. So that gives you an idea. There also will be a fitness lab, and I guess in our times today we refer to it as a weight room, but that becomes an important part for young people that are involved in any kind of rehabilitation, and also for community ed activities where we have a fitness lab in our school for use by the community.
I think this entire area, which is from the front below grade and really the first level and a below grade level, I think this entire area is certainly planned with community use in mind. And this level can be opened for evening and Saturday activities, for community education program, for learn to swim programs for children. And we know that this building, the present North Penn High School, certainly has a lot of use on evenings and on Saturdays for community ed activities. And certainly this would be conducive to that and would really be very helpful for good programming.
That's part of the thought that went into it, actually. If you access the building from grade or ground level in the back, there's no need to be in any other part of the building. We can cordon off the cafeteria area and really isolate the building, but you can still come from our large parking area and go in the front of the building, down the stairs into these two areas. So they really do become heavy community use areas as we perceive it.
Let's go back to the first drawing, the first schematic for the entire plot plan, and let's take a look at the parking areas. If I can read correctly, I see the parking area to the left of the drawing will accommodate some 540 cars, and we see the close proximity between the parking area and the auditorium and the main entrance. I'm not sure I can read the number on the other side. Is that 360 or 380?
360.
360 on the right side for the parking lot.
So we know that we're certainly going to have adequate parking for major functions. We would expect that if you're coming in for a community ed activity, if you're coming in as a spectator, if your youngster's involved in an athletic event here, that you would park in this area, of course, and access our fields or go across and into the building. A major function in the auditorium would certainly use this parking area as we see it here.
Would we plan to have any tennis courts here?
Yeah, we show an outline here, and we have to refine that yet. For those of you that are familiar with the Hull Farm or the Keenest Road property, and you can just see it down here, you see that this is the existing farmhouse and the existing barn. So if you're driving by, it gives you some idea as to where the building is sited on the property and where our entrances will be. We're showing 3 entrances, and of course, that is contingent upon township approval and, quite frankly, PennDOT approval, because Keenest Road is a state road. So we will work through those approvals, but initially we're showing 3 areas of access to the property off of Keenest Road.
In our early conversations, there was consideration for the possibility of an elementary school at some future time, an elementary school that might be built on a portion of this site.
That's correct.
Is that still possible?
That's still possible. We show a 15-acre site right in here that we've set aside in case there ever would be future expansion. Now, typically, when we do an elementary school, because of our parking requirements, we like to use minimally 25 to 30 acres. 25 acres is an ideal site. But the reason we need that type of acreage is because of the parking required. Our thought would be in scheduling events, if we had a back-to-school night or we had some kind of a musical or a concert going on in an elementary building, and I'm looking downstream to a time when maybe there would be an elementary building here, our overflow parking would take place in the high school lot. So we would double the use of that lot for the elementary building.
I think we need to take a look at what lies ahead. What are the next steps here? This certainly isn't final design, but what is the timetable as we look ahead and move this project? Because there is an interest in moving forward and keeping this project on the front burner and not letting it get to the back burner. What's next?
Well, obviously, we need to think in terms of what requirements the Department of Education will place on us, and we need to stay in schedule with that, and on schedule. We need to make sure we satisfy the requirements of Montgomery Township so that we can proceed with the Planning Commission, with the township supervisors, with all types of requirements such as surveys, wetlands, environmental studies, archaeological study if necessary. And those are being done as we speak with and by Mr. Breslin and his concern. We need to get with the Board of School Directors to make sure that we're on a financial pattern that's necessary. That is, if we need to borrow the money and when we need to borrow it. So the Board of School Directors has to meet and make those decisions. We also need to keep in mind that as part of that, we need an Act 34 hearing. We've been told by Mr. Breslin that he thinks he can move that up to August or September, and that will be important for us to consider. So we have certain things that we need to do, Ken, but we need to do them in with cooperation of the Board of School Directors, the architect, the township supervisors, financial planning, and so forth. It's a very time-consuming, tedious process, and it's something that needs to be moved on with dispatch. We've been studying this problem now since 1987. We have had numerous studies and numerous delays. Delays cost money. Taxpayers should be alerted to that. Delays cost tax money. We can't lose sight of that. And when decisions are overturned, that's very costly. Taxpayers should be alerted to that.
If this project moves along as we anticipate and moves on schedule, we would hope to have this building completed and ready for us to prepare for occupancy in what season of what year?
We would look to accept the building in March of 1999 with the understanding that we certainly will have students there very early on in August with the beginning of our fall practices, our band activities that start in August. And unlike an elementary building, we've been very fortunate in the past to be able to take possession of an elementary building the week before school opens and in some miraculous way open the building so that we have kids there the day after Labor Day. It doesn't work that way with a secondary building. We have all kinds of things that have to be brought in, science labs that have to be stocked, technology labs that have to be put together, homemaking. When you look at the music activity and the receipt of instruments and band uniforms and all your athletic uniforms, I mean, it's an awesome task. It's an awesome task to assemble the storage areas for those. It's an awesome task to check them in and inventory them. And that all has to be ready for mid-August. I mean, our young people will be showing up to begin their fall activities, and that's important.
September of 99.
September of 99, we will open the doors. We would open the doors for young people to come in and start the instructional activities that take place in any high school.
Thank you for sharing these plans, and we would invite those viewers who are interested in having a set of plans to stop by the Educational Service Center in Lansdale at the intersection of Hancock and Church Roads and ask to pick up a copy of the plans. People who are unable to come in can call the Office of School Community Services, and we'll make arrangements to make sure that interested people have a copy of the plans that we've reviewed today. We've been talking to you from the North Penn High School television studio, and we've had the able assistance of our student crew. My name is Ken Weir. I thank you, Dr. Persing, Art Wood. This has been Superintendent Spotlight. Thank you for watching.